Hi everyone, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and implement the sending messages functionality in our WhatsApp clone application. So first, let's see what we are going to implement. Here it is, our application. So here, for example, I want to chat with Monica. If I click on the item Monica, let's see what happens. Now we are transitioned to the WhatsApp chat activity. Here at the bottom, we have an edit text and we have a button. So for example, I want to say hi to Monica. So hi. And if I click on send message, let's see what happens. Now you can see that the message is sent from Michael to Monica, or from the current parts user to Monica. You can also see this message here, and you can see the name of the sender, Michael. So now let's go to the server here. Let me show you the server. And then here you can see that I have a class called chat. If I click on it, now it is going to be updated because now we have a new object inside this class. And you can see that the sender, WA WA stands for WhatsApp. So WhatsApp sender is Michael, and the WhatsApp target recipient is Monica. The message, the WA message, is hi. So now let's say that the sender, or the WA sender, is going to be Monica, and the WA target recipient is going to be Michael. In order to do that, we need to go ahead and create a new row. So let's say add row, and I'm gonna say the sender is going to be Monica. So here we must specify the exact username here. So Monica, and then the target is going to be Michael. The message is going to be, hey, Michael. And now that we specified the message, now I'm gonna go ahead and let me show you the emulator. I'm gonna close this app, and then I'm gonna open it again. So I'm gonna go to my Android Studio and I'm gonna open it. So here, if I go ahead and click on the item Monica, now you can see that the message of Monica is appeared here. And here it says, hey, Michael. So this is what we are going to implement. First, it is going to be your challenge. It can be a little bit hard for you, but I want you to do your best and try to solve this problem and see how you can send a message to another parts user. You need to search online a little bit and see how it's done. So give this challenge your best shot and good luck. So first, let's go ahead and design the layout, but first we need to find a way to send the username from this user's list to the WhatsApp chat activity. So you already know how to do that, but I'm gonna show you the code. So let me open the Android Studio. Inside this WhatsApp users activity here, you can see that I have implemented the onItemClick method. So this means that this class, the WhatsApp users activity, is actually implementing the adapterView.onItemClickListener, and then here inside this onCreate method, I have set the setOnItemClickListener on this list view, and I have passed the value this. Next, inside this method onItemClick, I have created a new object of type intent. So we want to transition from the current activity, which is going to be the WhatsApp users activity, to the target activity, which is going to be WhatsApp chat activity. Next, we are going to pass a value from the current activity to the target activity. So intent.putExtra. So first we need to specify the key. So the key is going to be selected user, and then we want to pass the username of the selected user. So we are referring to our array list that contains all of the usernames, WA users.getPosition. Next, we are going to start activity with this intent. So this is how you send the username from the WhatsApp users activity to the WhatsApp chat activity. So now you need to have the WhatsApp chat activity. So make sure to create this activity. And then here, let me close this activity. Let's go ahead and let's design this layout. So first you can see that we have this list view, we have this edit text and this button. So let's go to this res folder layout. And then let's go and open the activity WhatsApp chat.xml file. So here, let me show you what we have here. First, the root layout is not constraint layout. It is a linear layout, vertical. So make sure to switch to the text tab and change the constraint layout to linear layout, and also add the orientation attribute to your root layout. So set the orientation to be vertical. So now here we have a list view inside this linear layout here, the root layout. So I add it here, and I have set the ID of this list view to be chat list view, because we have other list views inside our project. So make sure that you specify a unique ID for your list view. That's why I said chat list view. So next, we have another linear layout here inside this linear layout vertical. This linear layout is horizontal. The orientation you can see is horizontal. And this linear layout has two other objects, two other components. This linear layout has this edit text and this button. So first, let me tell you that how it is organized. If you select this linear layout vertical, you can see that the layout width and the layout height is match parent. But if you select this chat list view, take a look at the layout height of this chat list view. I have set the layout width to be match parent, and that's okay. But what about the layout height? Why did I set the value 0 as the value of the height or the layout height of this list view? And let me also select this linear layout horizontal. Take a look at this linear layout horizontal. The layout width is match parent, but what about the layout height? It is 0. So can you figure out what's going on here? Let me tell you. First, you can see that I have imagined that the height of the entire screen is divided into 5 parts. So notice that this is just my imagination. So I have 5 parts, and I have said that I have imagined that the layout height of the entire screen or the layout is divided into 5 parts. So now I want my list view, which is inside this linear layout vertical. I want this list view to take, I want the layout height of this list view to take 4 parts of the 5 parts. So I selected this list view, and I have set the layout height to be 0 dp. But take a look at the other attribute that we have here, layout weight. If you cannot see it here, you can switch to the view all attributes and then click on the search icon and search for the weight attribute. Or you can also search to the text, and then you can, for example, go and find the list view and then find, or just type in here layout weight. So notice what I put here. I put number 4 as the layout weight of this list view. So this list view, this layout weight is actually proportionate with the value of the height. First, you must set the value of the height to be 0, and then you can specify the height of your list view by using the layout weight. So I told you that I want my linear layout, or I want my chat list view to take 4 parts of 5 parts. So what about the remaining part, which is going to be 1 part? I want to dedicate that one other part to my linear layout horizontal that I have inside this linear layout vertical. So first we have the chat list view, and then we have the linear layout horizontal. So for this other linear layout horizontal, I specified the value 0 dp as the layout height. So this means that I want to specify the height of this linear layout horizontal by using the layout weight. And then I set the other part, which is going to be only 1 part, to be the layout weight of this linear layout horizontal. So you can see number 1 here. And then inside this list view here, I have the edit text and this button. So for this edit text and this button, I have also used the same technique. I have selected this edit text and noticed what I set for the value of the layout width, 0 dp. And what about the layout weight? 2. So here I imagined the layout width of my linear layout horizontal to be, for example, 3 parts, okay, to be divided into 3 parts. And I want my edit text to take 2 parts of the 3 parts. So I passed, or I assigned the value 2 as the value of the layout weight of my edit text. And now remains only 1 part. So I selected my button and then I set the value layout width to be 0 dp and the layout weight to be 1. So whatever you imagine can be used here. So for example, if you imagine that the layout height of the entire screen is 100 parts, so now you can say that my list view should be 85 parts. So I'm gonna say layout weight to be 85, or I'm gonna say 80. And then I'm gonna press an enter key on my keyboard, but notice that this works only and only when you specify the layout height to be 0 dp. So I'm gonna press an enter key on my keyboard in order to submit this value. Now I'm gonna select my linear layout. So how many parts remain? 20, right? I'm gonna select my linear layout horizontal and I'm gonna assign the value 20 as the layout weight. So now it's back to the same position. So hopefully that makes sense. So this goes the same with the edit text and the button again. So this is a very important concept in Android app development. If you get this concept completely, you won't have any problems regarding designing your layouts, especially the linear layout, which is going to be a very powerful layout if you want to create complex applications like a chat app. So now that you understand this concept, and make sure that you add these components. So we have the chat list view, we have the edit text, edt send. I have set the ID to be edt send. And then the hint attribute, type something here. And the button is btn send, and the message and the text is send message. So now we can go to the Java file and put the logic there. So let me open the project navigator. Let's close this XML file and let's go inside the WhatsApp chat activity. So let me open this file for you. So for now, let me show you that what we have here, we have some instance variables. We have the list view, chat list view. We have the array list here, which is going to be the chat list. I want to assign all of the chat values here. So for example, the message hi or hey Michael, all of these chats, all of these messages will be assigned to this array list, chats list. Then we have the adapter, and then we have the string selected user. Why we have this variable? Because we are going to get the username from the users list from this activity, WhatsApp users activity. So when I select on Monica, the Monica value will be sent to the WhatsApp chat activity. So we have this variable. Now let's go inside this onCreate method. First, we are going to initialize our variable selected user. So we are going to call getIntent, and then by calling the getIntent method, we are going to get the intent object that is passed to this activity. And then we are going to get the string extra because we know a string value is passed to this activity. And then we just need to pass the key, selected user. Next, here, now that this variable is initialized, we are going to just create a fancy toast message and say that now you can chat with the user that is selected. So let me show you this message. It says chat with selected user now. The toast is short, the duration is short, the fancy toast message is info, and the icon is true. Make sure to call the show method. Now if I just click on back and if I click on Ross, now it says chat with Ross now. Or if I click on Mori, now it says chat with Mori now. Okay, so now that we have this toast message here, let's see what I'm doing here. What is this? Here I am simply referring to the ID of my button. Find view by ID is going to access our UI component that we created inside our layout, r.id.btn send, and then I am calling the set onClick listener on my button, and then I am passing the value this. So here this means that our class is implementing the view.onClick listener interface. So here let me tell you that you can do that here. You can just refer to your button, to the ID of your button, and then call that method on your button without creating any other variables. Here we did not create any variables of type button. I just called this method and I called the onClick listener of my button, r.id.btn send. And then I passed the context. So this means at the bottom of the file, you can see that the onClick method is implemented. So let me go back to onCreate method. Now here, let's see what's going on here. We have this chat list view to be initialized. So I am saying find view by id r.id.chatlistView. Then we have our array list, chats list, new array list. So notice that this chats list here accepts values of type string. Next, we have the adapter. So new array adapter. So this is the constructor of the array adapter class. First, we need to pass the context. Then we need to specify the row. So simple list item 1. And then the array list, chats list. So next, now that we initialized our adapter, we are setting the adapter of our chat list view. We are saying that chat list view dot set adapter adapter. So the reason that I am specifying the adapter here inside this onCreate method after initializing the adapter is that because we are implementing a chat activity, there are two users that are going to be chatting together. So first we need to specify the adapter, and later when the user, for example, type hi here and click on this button, then we are going to update our list view. So make sure that you set the adapter here after initializing the adapter. Now here you can see that we have our parse query codes. So for now, don't worry about these parse query codes here. Let me just scroll down here. Let's go into the onClick method of our button. So when this button is tapped or clicked, this onClick method is going to be executed. So when the button is tapped, we want to get the value of our edit text. So we are going to create and initialize our edit text object here inside this method. And I think it's more memory friendly when you create this UI component inside the onClick method, because when we click on this button, an object of type edit text is going to be created. And when the flow of the program reaches to the ending curly brace of this onClick method, then this variable, this local variable, which is of type edit text, will die and it won't occupy the memory. So it's more memory friendly to create your variables locally. And then here we have a variable of type parse object, and I named it as chat. Assignment operator, new parse object, and here I am specifying the class, which is going to be the chat class. So if I show you the server, you can see that we have this chat class, and then we can have some values here. So for example, we are going to specify the sender, the WA sender, the WA target recipient, and the actual message. So here we have the class, and then we are specifying the columns. First, we are saying chat.put WA sender. So the sender is going to be the current parse user .get current user .get username. Next, we are going to specify the recipient of the message, the target recipient. I'm going to say chat.put WA target recipient, and then I am going to pass the selected user that we get from the previous activity, the WhatsApp users activity. So the recipient is going to be this one. And next, we are going to specify the message itself. What is the message that is sent from the current user to the recipient? So chat.put WA message as the name of the column, edt message .get text to string. So we get the message from our edit text here, you can see. And here you can see also the message. And then here we have the save in background method. Now that we have this object, and now that we specified the columns of our object, we are going to say chat.save in background, save callback. So inside this done method, if there is no error, we are going to create a toast message, and we are going to say that first we need to pass the context, which is going to be WhatsApp chat activity.this. Then the message itself, we are going to say message from the parse user .get current user .get username sent to the selected user, to the target user. And then we are going to specify the duration, the type of the fancy toast message, the icon, and the show method. So here, if I, for example, just type in here, hi, how are you? And then if I click on send message, you can see that it's gonna show us this toast message from Michael sent to Maury. So here you can see this fancy toast message. And then we have this array list, chats list. .add, we are going to add the message that is sent by the current user to the target user or the recipient. So we are going to say chat list.add parse user.getCurrentUser.get username, and then we are going to concatenate this value with this colon here. You can see that when I, for example, send a message, you can see the name of the user that has sent the message and a colon, and then we just concatenate the message itself to this value. So we have the colon plus, and then we get the message from this edit text, edt message.getText.toString, right? And then we have adapter.notify dataset changed. This method is used to update the list view. We are using this method to let the list view know that there are some new data. So now it should be updated. Adapter.notify dataset changed. Next, we are going to set the value of our edit text to be an empty string value. So for example, if I say hi, and if I click on send message, you can see that when I click on send message, the text of this edit text is gone. So that's why, because I have put this line of code here. So hopefully that makes sense. This is our functionality in order to send a message. So now let's go inside our onCreate method. So let's see how we are creating a query. First, let me tell you that, for example, Michael is now just talking with Maury. So if I click on back, so let me show you the server. So here you can see that there is a conversation between Monica and Michael, right? So here notice that first we have the Michael as the sender and the Monica as the recipient, and then we have the Monica as the sender and the Michael as the recipient. So this means that we need to query first the case that the Michael is the sender and the Monica is the recipient, and we need to also have another query for the case that the Monica is the sender and the Michael is the recipient of the message. So let's go to our Android Studio. It can be a little bit complex, but let's just see how it's done. Let's break it down into smaller problems and let's see how it is implemented. First, you can see inside this onCreate method, after setting the adapter of our chat list view, I have this parse query. We want to get parse object inside the angle brackets. The name of the first query is going to be first user chat query. And then we are going to say assignment operator parse query.get query, the chat class that we have inside the server. Next, we need to say another query. We have another query. Let's say parse query. Again, parse object. And the name of this one is going to be second user chat query. And then we have parse query.get query, the chat class. So let's see what's next. So far, so good. Next, we have this one. It says first user chat query. So we want to get a query, right? We want to say that where equal to, we have a condition where the key or the column WA sender is equal to the parse user.get current user.get username. So here we are checking for the condition that the sender of the message is the current parse user, and then we are saying that first user chat query that were equal to where the key, the column is equal to WA target recipient, and we are going to say that the target recipient is going to be the selected user. So this is for this condition. We have another condition. What about the selected user to be the sender of the message and the current user to be the receiver of the message? So here we have the second user chat query. So second user chat query that where equal to, or where the WA sender is equal to the selected user and the recipient of the message. So second user chat query that where equal to, or where WA target recipient is equal to the current user, parse user.get current user.get username. So hopefully that makes sense. We need to check for both of these conditions when the current user is the sender of the message and the selected user is the recipient of the message. And we need to also check for another condition when the selected user is the sender of the message and the current parse user is the receiver of the message. So that's why we need these two queries. Now we have an array list here, an array list of parse queries. So we have an array list that only accepts values of type parse query, and this parse query is going to get parse object. And then the name of our variable is going to be all queries, assignment operator, new array list. And then we are going to say all queries dot add the first user chat query, and also all queries dot add second user chat query. Next, we are going to say parse query, parse object, my query. So we have another object of type query. So next, assignment operator, parse query dot or. So this or method accepts an array list of parse query objects. So that's why we need to use or here. And then we pass all queries to this or method. And then we assign it to this my query. And then we can go ahead and just say my query dot order by ascending, because here notice that when I, for example, send a message to Rachel, when I say hi and press on the send message, you can see the old message is going to be at the top. This is ascending. And if I say, for example, something else, how are you? And if I click on send message, you can see the new message is below the older message. So this is what we are doing here. We are going to order these messages by ascending, and we are going to pass the column created at. So here in the server, you can see that we have this column created at. So the latest message is going to be at the top. You can see the date of this message. So that's why we are going to use this column in order to specify whether we want the order to be ascending, older to new one, or descending, new one to older one. So here, because we want to first see the older message at the top, and then we are going to see the newer message, that's why we are going to use order by ascending, and then we pass according to the value of this created at column. So here, after specifying the order, we are going to say my query. So notice that this my query is just holding all of these queries, all of these two queries that we created above. I'm gonna say my query dot find in background, and then the find callback. So here we have the done method. So first we need to make sure that the size of our objects that we get from the server is greater than 0 and there is no error. We have a for loop. We are going to iterate over each object of our parse object that we get from the server. So here where it gets a little bit interesting. Let's see what's going on here inside this for loop. So first of all, inside this for loop, I am creating a variable of type string, and I am naming it as WA message, the message that we get from the server, assignment operator. So notice the name of this variable, chat object. Here I am simply saying that chat object dot get. So here I want to get the value of this key, WA message, this column. So if I show you the server, you can see this column, WA message. We want to get the value of this key. So I'm gonna say chat object dot get WA message plus 2 quotes in order to convert it to a string value, because we get an object from this get method. And we are going to assign that value to this WA message variable. So now that we have the message, we are going to have this if statement and this another if statement. So first, let's take a look at this if statement. Here we are saying that if the chat object dot get the value of this WA sender, or the sender of this message, dot equals to, so here we are simply saying that if the sender of the message is the parse user dot get current user dot get username, so if the sender of the message is the current parse user, then go inside this if statement and say that the value of this WA message to be parse user dot get current user dot get username, and then we are going to concatenate it with this string value, this colon, and then we are going to just concatenate the WA message to this variable. That's why when we, for example, run our application, you know that the onCreate method is going to be called when we transition to an activity, or when an activity is going to be opened. So for example, if I click on Monica, now the onCreate method is called, and here you can see the messages. So notice first it's going to show us the name of the user that has sent this message, the colon, and then the actual message. So that's why I used this line of code here in order to have the same functionality. So here, this is our if statement, and now we have another if statement. So if the chat object dot get the WA sender, if the sender of the message is the selected user, so if the other user has sent the message, then again we are going to use the same format. We are going to say that the WA message to be selected user colon WA message. So here notice that I didn't use if else statement because I want both of these if statements to be executed here, because for example if the user sends a message or if another user sends a message, then inside the onCreate method we want to get all of those messages, and we don't know what message we are going to get. We don't know whether we are going to get the message of the current user or whether we get the message of the selected user. That's why we have these two if statements here in order to get all of the messages, show them as this format that I used here. So after these two if statements, notice that I am still inside the curly braces of this for loop. I am going to assign this WA message, the message that we get from the server, to our array list, and then we are going to call the notify dataset changed method on our adapter. So first let me tell you that this is not a good programming practice to call this method on our adapter object inside the for loop, because each time this for loop executes, it is going to refresh our list view, and that's not a good programming practice. So I can just go ahead and cut this line of code and paste it after the ending curly brace of this for loop. So notice that I paste this code inside the curly braces of this if statement, if objects.size is greater than 0 and there is no error. So this is a good place to use this method, notify dataset changed, and we can go ahead and have the updated list view. So after calling this method, everything is done for us, and here we can go ahead and run our application. But the final change that I want to add to our code is that I want to put these query codes inside the try catch block. So after calling or after setting the adapter of our list view before these queries, I'm gonna say try, and I'm gonna open this curly brace. I'm gonna open this try, and I'm gonna put all of these query codes inside this try block, and I'm gonna scroll down here. So here notice that we have the ending curly brace of this method. This is the ending curly brace of our onCreate method. So before the ending curly brace of our onCreate method, I'm gonna put the ending curly brace of the try block, and then I need to specify the catch statement. So catch exception e, let's name the name of this parameter as e, and if there is an error, I'm gonna say e.print stack trace. So that's good. Now we can go ahead and run our application, and we can enjoy our WhatsApp clone application. So for example, these are our users. I'm gonna chat with Johnson. I'm gonna say hi Johnson, and I'm gonna just click on send message. So the message is going to be sent to Johnson, and Johnson can send a message back to me. So this is a very good feature of our WhatsApp clone application. Congratulations, you have created your own WhatsApp clone application. There are still lots of new features that you can add to your WhatsApp clone application. For example, you can specify an image for the profile of the user, or for example, you can allow a user to send files to another user, and I think you are capable of adding these features to your application. In the next section of the course, we're gonna go ahead and build our own Uber clone application. So I look forward to seeing you in the next section.